Ash vs. Evil Dead series premiere, El Jefe. Now, this show I've been excited for ever since it got announced. I love Evil Dead. I've loved it for years now. Like, ever since I saw the second film, I actually saw the second movie first because, for whatever reason, no one ever shows the first one. I guess because it was sort of, of course, when it first came out, it really was kind of an indie film, and then the second one was like the big production. So, all people always showed the second one, and I was like, I'd see clips and stuff, and I was like, I'm gonna check this out. So ever since I saw the second movie, I've loved the franchise. I did, of course, see the first one. I've seen Army of Darkness. I actually own the reboot. I still don't own the original film shit. I always see them, and I just never end up getting them because it's always like, oh, I don't have money to get them or whatever. But I plan on getting the like ultra, special edition Blu-rays that are always on Amazon at some point. But I was so excited for this show, and I found out that it was coming out. The only thing that sucked was that I knew I'd miss it because I was at an anime convention over the weekend. So that's why this review is so late, and I haven't been here to actually see the show. But I was looking forward to it. Like, it was the first thing I had to see. I'm like, I gotta get here. I would have done it yesterday, but of course I left something for a stupid school thing. So I had to wait an extra day before I got to watch the episode. And I loved it. I thought it was a great first episode. Definitely funny. It's definitely got the comedy of Army of Darkness, which is certainly the real comedy one. Like, Evil Dead 2 certainly had funny moments. It had, like, weird, crazy things, like, especially when the house was, like, laughing at Ash, and, like, even the lamp is laughing and stuff like that. It's like, it has its silly, over-the-top moments, but this had, like, Army of Darkness style comedy, where it's just, like, really funny, and I love that, but it also had the staples, of the first two films, which was insane gore and crazy monsters. If anything, it had like more gore. It seemed like it was actually equivalent to the reboot because they've got more special effects. They've got, I'm assuming, a bigger budget. Like we as fans asked for stuff like this, so it was really awesome. Like, I love the fighting in this episode was actually pretty cool. The opening scene was pretty insane, to be totally honest. Like, we got, once we get our cop character and she has, like, her opening scene, it was just, like, insanity. Like, the stuff with Ash was pretty simple. It was just funny and stuff. And then we get this scene, and that's when it took a turn. It wasn't like, oh, it's Ash and it's silly and funny. Ash had a couple of minutes, and then she had, I believe it was like a 10-minute scene for her character. And I was like, holy crap, this is like real creepy and stuff. And they're in this house, and it's her and her partner. And of course, don't remember her name. I remember, of course, Ash, Pablo, and Kelly. But I don't remember the cop's name, which they said like one time this episode. And of course, haven't looked up like any info on the show, so I don't, I don't like to know like anything ahead of time whatsoever. So I just, learn stuff as the show goes on. So I don't even know Lucy Lawless's character's name because she's just in it. But I'm excited to see her. I liked her little introduction because the way they did it, it was obvious that she knows about the Deadites. And that's what makes me curious because it's like, okay, we have Ash. 3 films, we already knew how that was going to play out. He knows what's happening. Pablo and Kelly, they get introduced to things pretty much in the middle of the episode, so of course they know. We have our cop character who gets introduced to the Deadites really early on, and she feels like she thinks she's, just went insane during this shootout and basically killed her partner. She has no idea what to really believe, which makes sense. I mean, you got this woman who turns her head around and then she's bending her arms backwards to try to come at you, and then you have to kill her. Like, she stabs you through the hand, and half her face gets blown off, but she still gets back up and kills your partner and tosses him into some antlers, and then he turns evil and he's crawling all over the place. So of course it made sense that this is just some random person getting thrown into this, and it's like, did I just completely lose my mind? What happened here? So I kind of like that aspect because, of course, even in the 3 films, we've never really had that before. Like, we've had skeptical characters, but obviously they get introduced to it. They don't think they're going crazy. They know, like, once some random demon attacks them, it's like, okay, I was wrong. Things are really bad here. But for her, at least for, like, the first couple seconds, like, obviously by the end of the episode, she knows things are real, but even for that little scene where she was at the diner, I was like, that's actually kind of cool. where we have a character who really dealt with the Deadites. I mean, she got stabbed through the hand. She had to fight, the backwards woman, which was very awesome. I love that scene where she's like bending her arms backwards to come at them. I was like, that's actually very creepy, and I love the way that that played out. So she dealt with all this crazy stuff, and then she has to kill her partner and like blow his brains out. And I love the way they shot that whole thing. They just had like some really interesting camera angles. The whole episode they did that, and there were a couple of moments that really stood out. Like one was the whole scene with her character in just the dark house, and especially after all the shutters close, and then it's just like I think the best part was probably when she had the flashlight and it's just spinning in a circle on the ground. I was like, that is really cool, because they do it where it goes completely pitch black and then his face changes, and I kept expecting I was expecting him to change and it would be like super crazy, but he changes and it's still really subtle, and it's really off-putting because he doesn't attack her, he just changes, and then he's laughing and then he stops, and then it's just like, I'm not sure what to expect. Every time that the flashlight rotated, I was like, he's gonna disappear. I kept thinking that, and it never happened, and it was just like, the whole time I was just kind of like on my feet, like, is he gonna vanish and then attack her from somewhere else? Like, how is this gonna play out? And then ultimately she just has to like blow him away, and they do like the crazy blood splatter and stuff. And I was like, it looked cool how they visually messed around with that little area. It was definitely pretty fun. One of the other really awesome moments was when they show the scenes from the first film, and before they started doing it, I was like, that's interesting how they have their camera angles right now, because it was like Ash was on like the bottom right, and then they went to Pablo and it was the same thing, and I was like, that's interesting, where it's mostly the background. I was like, that's, you don't see that in TV, that's pretty cool. And then it was like, oh, because they're showing, as if, like a projector's playing, they're showing it on the boxes behind them. And I was like, that's even cooler. Like, now it makes perfect sense by they had all this open space. And I was like, that's actually really awesome. I don't believe I've seen anything like that before. I've seen it in a video game, and that was in, like, Splinter Cell. And that's the only time I can say that I've personally seen something like that, where they, sort of pseudo flashbacks, I guess, because he's telling the story. But, we see stuff just played on the walls. I was like, that's actually really awesome. I like the way that they did that. I also thought it was kind of funny that they didn't show Evil Dead 2. It was just like him saying, like, oh, my friends and my girlfriend died. It was like, screw that second batch of people. It was like, my friends and girlfriend died, and that was it. But that's all you really need to know, for someone random anyway. That's all it takes. You don't need to know he had to deal with that crap twice. So, it makes sense. But I definitely enjoyed this episode. I love the way they shot stuff. They had a bunch of different scenes with Ash where they did sort of the noir style of lighting, where it's like, it's sort of, it wasn't pitch black like old black and white noir films, but you could definitely tell it was just like a little band of light going across Ash's face, and then everything else would be a little bit darker. And I was like, I love that they're doing this. It's over the top, but in like the most subtle way possible, and that's like the only way I could think to describe that. And I thought it was really cool, and they did it a lot. Towards the end, like once Pablo was telling him, like, you're probably the person that can defeat these things. You're probably the only person. And then they would do like this sort of dramatic lighting where when he's like kind of contemplating, like, it's not really me anymore, and it's like dramatic lighting across his eyes and stuff. I like that. I was like, it's funny, but at the same time, it's also kind of cool because they did it during very specific moments. So I enjoyed that. Like I said, the comedy was definitely funny. I don't know how he has seniority over the manager, and the manager can't fire him, but he's still technically a stock boy. Like, I thought that was just a funny scene in general, because it's like, okay, he's the stock boy, the other guy is the manager, and so he can't fire the stock boy because he's been there longer, but technically he's still a stock boy. Even if you're brand new, if you came in as the manager, you have more power, even though he's been there forever. I just thought that was really funny. And then it's like, don't break the lights, and the whole box is open, and he just drops all the light bulbs. And it was even funnier because he was looking, and every time he did a thing, he would just be like, like, it's because it was so freaking loud. I love that. And he's like popping all the light bulbs when he's trying to step away. And then he like shoves him once, and he's just like, oh, okay, and he's looking around and stuff. I like that. I thought it was really funny. Like our first Deadite attack on Ash, the little doll thing. Never thought that would be so creepy. Like just the way it was. I always think dolls are a little creepy, but it was so tiny. I was like, it would, of course, it reminded me of Army of Darkness is like the easiest thing. I was like, oh, they totally should have had him say like, you little bastard or something. But when it's attacking him, I was like, I didn't think it would like really creep me out. Like when I saw it from the trailer, I was like, oh, this would just be a crazy little scene. And then when it actually happened outside of the trailer, and it's not like a funny moment, it's like him actually being attacked. I was like, this actually does look really creepy. Like it has like the little sharp teeth and stuff, and just like the dialogue of the thing, it was just, I think it was just saying like I hate you or something like that. And I was like, somehow this is just like way creepier than I thought it was gonna end up being from the trailer when he gets, a little tiny doll jumps on his face and bites his nose. That was really silly and funny. And then when I saw it, I was like, this is actually a little creepy. And I guess it's probably because dolls have always kind of creeped me out, but I didn't expect that because it was so tiny. It's like, it's not one of those things where it's really big and it's like pseudo life size, like the size of a child. It's super, super tiny. It's just like, it's just going to be silly little scene where he's dealing with this little thing and it's crawling all over him. But it actually ended up being a little creepy. And then Pablo comes in and totally saves him at the end when it gets the box cutter, and he just smashes it, and that surprised me. I didn't think it would actually have blood in it, and it just squished and blood just shot out. I was like, okay, it was truly alive. Like it was filled with stuff, and it just got squished and blood just shot all over the place. So I like that scene. The ending, of course, was really awesome, and them going through when he fights the first guy, he gets the shotgun. He takes his sock boy shirt off, and then he just has the blue shirt underneath. I was like, that's really cool. And then he puts his strap on and everything. He gets his double barrel, takes the guy out. He does the flip and everything, and just puts it behind his back. And then we get the older woman who's like cleaning up his place, which is also a funny scene when he's like, just a little dusting here and there, and then do this, and grease this, and clean out the water tank and everything. She's like, okay, and he's like, really get in there. Like he got a little mean. He was like, don't screw this up. And I thought that was just kind of funny. Like Ash in his older age kind of gotten a little douchey, which I thought was really funny. But ultimately, he's still our hero, and so it's a funny sort of in between for his character. But when she comes in, like we see the silhouette of the chainsaw, and then he has to deal with her. And she was really beating him up. Like, he had, like, a cool moment. He had, like, when he took the axe and he tossed it, I was honestly wondering, I was like, are they going to make this really cool? Or is this going to end up being really funny where it just hits the wall and falls down? But it ended up being really cool. So he chops the hand off, then the whole shotgun thing. And they were doing okay. And then she comes in and she wiped all of them out. Like, Pablo got tossed. Pablo really got screwed up. Because he got like cut at first when the glass like burst open. So he got cut, and then when she was actually there, she just like tossing him around, and then she actually stabbed him. Kelly got thrown around. Ash got thrown into the ceiling, and he was knocked out for a quick second. And it was just like, they got really messed up when she came into play. But of course, we got the awesome scene where Pablo kicks the chainsaw with like the least realistic physics ever, but it was still awesome. I was like, it just looked funny. Like it just made the chainsaw seem so light. Like it just flew through the air, and Ash like he jumps at it in slow motion and stuff. And he's like, I love the way they did it because they obviously did that on purpose because it was like he was flying down a hallway almost, like the way it looked and everything. It was sort of elongated the trailer they were in, and he's just jumping through the air, and then he gets the chainsaw, and it was super awesome. And so we get, a really cool scene, like when he actually killed her, and he was like, he almost did like a full 180. He was basically turned backwards, and then she's jumping at him, and he does like a full swing all the way across, and I love the slow motion of it and everything. And he just whips her head clean off. They basically just drop the body straight on the ground, and it thuds, and then the head hits, and it was just like practical effects and the blood squirting all over the place. And I was like, this is really awesome. And of course, in the very first episode, the final line after Pablo asks how it feels to be back, of course, the last line is Ash saying groovy. And then it's like, boom, Ash versus Evil Dead. And it was a great ending to the episode. Definitely enjoyed it. Like the comedy. I'm very curious, like I said, about the Lucy Lawless thing because it's obvious that she knows certain stuff is going on. She somehow even knew what was going on with the cop because she's just sitting there and she's just like, hey, is everything okay? She wasn't even, they were facing the same direction, but she knew what was going on. So I'm looking forward to her character. Like, how does she know about the Deadites, the Book of the Dead in general? What help are they really gonna get from like the Books of Beyond or whatever the place was called on the card? So there are a lot of questions. Of course, it's the first episode. How are the characters gonna officially meet? We have our. I guess they're all really main characters. There's only 5 people. Everyone else, I think, is either gonna be evil or be dead. So, or the Evil Dead. But right now we have like our 3 main people. We got Ash, Pablo, and Kelly together, and then we have Lucy Lawless's character, who's just like, at this point, she was just the woman in the white dress who clearly knows about the Deadites, and then we have our cop who's going through something pretty crazy. Like she's the quote unquote normal person. So I'm looking forward to how these characters end up running into each other and how that how this little group grows and what roles they all end up playing, because of course we have Ash who's like, I gotta deal with this again because I screwed up. He got stoned and released the evil, which I thought was just really funny, but of course that's how it ended up happening. He got stoned and read from the book, and they had the woman who ends up, the girl who ends up turning her head around, she's reading from the book too. So of course they all get screwed over, and it's as simple as that. So now he's got to fix it. He has 2 people with him. Kelly, who knows? I'm assuming Kelly is gonna lose both her parents because we have like the scene in the trailer where he's digging 2 graves. I'm assuming that would be her parents, but at the same time, she was super calm during that scene. So I don't know, but it could have been like the end of the episode as well, and it's like after she dealt with the super sad moment, and it's like this is the resolution of the episode. So that easily still could have been both her parents, which would suck, but I feel like that's how that's going to end up happening because it ends with her dad being like, she's here, and her mom walks in. That's not going to be good. A big question I'm wondering is, are certain people targeted by the darkness? Because, it's just like, it just happens randomly. We got like the really cool shot where the darkness is like flying around, and we got it to go under cars, and it went through a car and stuff. I'm assuming that was a cameo by someone that we should know, but I don't know. I didn't like pause it to see like who's this random woman that was in the car still. I feel like that's someone related to somebody on the show. I'm sure it is. But we got that. It killed the boss. We don't really see how that happens, but he's just like, oh, and it kills him. But it makes me wonder like if certain people are targeted because this is like a whole new era for the Evil Dead. We've never seen where it's just like, oh, it's Deadites all over the place killing people, like a zombie apocalypse type of thing. It's always been the cabin or Army of Darkness. It was a bunch of people getting attacked, but that was because they were all woken up. So I guess it's the same as Army of Darkness in a new era, but it seemed like certain characters were targeted, like Kelly's father. It's kind of like, why was he targeted? Why was her mother brought back to life of all people? So I'm looking forward to some answers. I'm very excited for this show. Love Evil Dead. I'm really looking forward to more of the action. I think the action was actually really awesome, which Evil Dead isn't exactly known for. It's known for its insane gore, which obviously is a huge result of the action they have in this episode. So I'm sure we'll get more of that, especially from the one scene I know we're going to get from that was in the trailer, where Ash is just like stabbing one of the Deadites in the neck with like the broken beer bottle, and there's just blood shooting all over the place. So there will not be a lack of gore, which I don't mind whatsoever. I'm looking forward to it actually. Really looking forward to some of the really scary monsters, because I think my favorite one that I've seen so far from the trailers is the one that has like no face, it's like all skin until it gets to the teeth, and it just has like a creepy looking mouth. I'm really looking forward to that. I want this show to like freak me out and be super creepy, because Evil Dead, both 1 and 2, they had creepy moments, but and of course Evil Dead, like the very first one was like the scariest one, and then the Evil Dead remake I think was about the same. It definitely had like really really creepy moments and some silly stuff thrown in, but mostly some really creepy stuff. And I think this is definitely following that, and I like that idea. I want to see a more a perfect blend, because I think this has a perfect blend. Like the intro scene for the cop, very very intense, very creepy, not funny whatsoever, and that was like a huge switch from the stuff we already had in the episode with Ash. And then this was like, it was almost like a totally different show. It was like, this is weird how it changed so much. It was a total 180. It was complete drama, action, and suspense with just the way it was shot and done. So I'm definitely looking forward to way more of that, because it was really awesome in this first episode. Of course, I want to know what you guys thought about this premiere, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and of course, excuse me, I want to know how this first episode really affected you guys. I mean, we've had, I think it's been 2, possibly 3 years since the reboot came out, and so this is the next saga in Evil Dead, and it is going to be very different than anything we've had before. It's been movies, which is very, hour and a half, 2 hour type things. We're going to have a series that can go on for who knows how long, and it's going to be very different, and I'm so freaking excited for that, because I want them to expand on this lore, which has really just caused a bunch of chaos. And like, when you think about it, it's caused chaos in really small degrees, and now it's across an entire state, possibly. Like, who knows how it's really going to be going, which I'm assuming is also in Michigan. They do mention Saginaw, which is a place here in Michigan, and so I thought that was kind of cool that Ash is still living in Michigan. They had the Spartan thing, because Pablo either goes to Michigan, or he goes to state, or he just likes Michigan State. But they had the Spartan helmet, and he had the green and white jacket. I was like, that's cool, because of course that's where they went, was Michigan State. Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, they're from Michigan, so that was really awesome. Especially, I know Sam Raimi is. I believe Bruce Campbell also went to state. But that was really awesome. I was like, oh, they're still, keeping the references going. The Michigan State stuff it's always in there somehow. And I was like, that's really cool. I actually like that helmet too. It was just pretty sweet. But they're in Michigan. Who knows, if they're gonna show us some stuff from this, from the state. I would know it. Other people from Michigan, I would assume, would know it. Unfortunately, not everyone would. It's probably not actually filmed in Michigan either, because that's just how TV works. So, and that's totally fine. It's just references. That's all I really need, because it just makes it cool. Like, oh, I remember when they referenced that in the reboot, or in the first movie or second movie. So it doesn't matter. But I want to know what you guys think about this series and this new chapter, and this really huge new portion of lore for an amazing series that really has kind of just been a couple of movies in some very close-knit spaces. Aside from the big war in Army of Darkness, it's been very tight-knit. It's a cabin, and that's it. It's a couple of people affected, and we get like a little bit of the history. So now it's going to be different, really different. I'm looking forward to it, but like I said, I want to know what you guys think, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.